Overlooking the entrance to Sydney Harbour lies one of the city's remarkable military sites. At first glance, it appears little more than a maze of sandstone tunnels, gun emplacements and concrete fortifications. But every wall, every passage, every gun pit was built for a purpose. For more than a century, Middlehead stood at the forefront of Sydney's coastal defences. One piece in a network of defences around the city's harbour. As weapons evolved, so too did the fortifications. New batteries replaced older ones. Massive guns gave way to even larger artillery. Tunnels multiplied. Observation posts expanded. And new technologies transformed the way wars might one day be fought. So here we are at Middlehead, and its extraordinary fortifications that helped guard Sydney Harbour for more than 100 years. The strategic importance of Middlehead was recognised not long after European settlement. Its commanding position overlooked the narrow entrance to Sydney Harbour. And in 1800, Governor Philip King deemed it better to have a battery closer to the entrance of the harbour. So in 1801, this small battery was cut out of sandstone by 44 convicts. And any hostile ship entering would have little choice but to pass directly beneath the cannon's position here, a stone's throw from Obelisk Beach. It was modest by later standards, but it marked the beginning of what would become one of Australia's most sophisticated coastal defence systems. Over the following decades, military technology advanced rapidly. Guns became larger, more accurate, and capable of firing greater distances. The original batteries soon became obsolete. A major transformation began during the 1870s, with new batteries beginning to appear at Middlehead, nearby George's Head, and over at South Head. A road needed to be hacked out of the bush between Blues Point and Middlehead, just to haul heavy guns and materials here. The headland slowly developed as part of Sydney's outer harbour defence system. Much of the work was overseen by colonial architect James Barnett, whose name's more commonly associated with some of Sydney's finest civic buildings, including the GPO, Paddington Town Hall, and the Mortuary Railway Station. Yet Barnett also helped shape these remarkable military works. Working alongside British military engineers, he designed sandstone batteries, underground magazines, and tunnels that blended engineering into the rugged landscape itself. Rather than building towering fortresses above the headland, much of the Middlehead complex was hidden within it. From the harbour, many of the guns were almost invisible, but Middlehead relied on more than artillery alone. By 1894, a line of electrically controlled underwater mines stretched across the harbour. Operated from the newly built Chowder Bay depot and barracks, it was designed to destroy hostile ships attempting to enter the harbour. It was one of the most advanced harbour defence systems of its day. Walking through Middlehead today, it's easy to become disoriented. Tunnels twist beneath the hillside. Doorways and shafts appear unexpectedly. Dark passages lead to hidden chambers, now locked behind gates. But nothing here was accidental. The underground network allowed soldiers to move safely between positions while remaining protected from enemy fire. Deep inside the headland were magazines where gunpowder was carefully stored in cool, dry conditions. Nearby, Shell stores housed artillery rounds awaiting use. Every doorway, ventilation shaft and sandstone wall served a purpose. Even the curved tunnels helped reduce the force of any accidental explosion. Above ground, the gun emplacements offered commanding views across to the heads. Observation posts watched every vessel entering the harbour. Range-finding equipment allowed soldiers to calculate distance and direction with remarkable precision long before the age of radar. Every shot depended not only on the men operating the guns, but on mathematics. Engravings like this one can be found at each emplacement. The numbers indicate feet above sea level, used in the calculations required to position the guns in the range of the targets. The fortifications evolved continuously as military technology improved. Early batteries mounted powerful muzzle-loading cannons. Operating one of these guns required remarkable teamwork. A crew of between 8 and 12 artillerymen worked together, each with a specific task. After every shot, the barrel had to be carefully sponged to extinguish any remaining embers before fresh gunpowder was rammed into the muzzle, followed by the heavy projectile itself. These large 6-inch breech-loading disappearing guns transformed coastal defence. After firing, the gun's own recoil forced it downward behind the protective parapet, allowing the crew to reload it safely below the line of enemy fire. Once ready, hydraulic rams raised the gun back into position for its next shot. It was an ingenious piece of engineering. These newer weapons could fire 5 or 6 rounds every minute, a dramatic improvement over the older muzzleloaders. A blast from one of these was deafening. Estimated at more than 160 decibels, the concussion could be felt deep in the chest, while anyone standing nearby without ear protection risked permanent damage. Impressive as they were, the guns were never used to fire at enemy fleets. During the late 1800s, Middlehead became the site of the Easter encampments, large temporary military camps that transformed the headland each year into a landscape of tents, drills and spectators. With the withdrawal of the British garrison in 1870, the colony was now responsible to defend itself. A local force began to develop, combining small permanent units with a growing network of volunteers. These were ordinary citizens who, when they weren't working their regular jobs, trained as gunners, soldiers, engineers and signallers. Each Easter, volunteers from across New South Wales gathered for around a week of intense training. The exercises were designed to simulate active service, including mock battles across the headland and harbour. But the encampments were also major public spectacles, demonstrations that the colony was capable of defending itself. It was the last day of encampments, and it kicked off well. The newly appointed governor and his wife were there, officially inspecting the mock battles and ceremonial parade, as were several thousand spectators. But one final demonstration remained, a public display of submarine mining at nearby Cobblers Beach. 14 men of the submarine corps set out in a cutter to lay 2 100-pound mines offshore. The plan was simple enough. Lower the mines to the seabed, move to a safe distance and detonate them electrically. One mine was lowered and they moved a safe distance away, paying out the firing cable. The second mine was still sitting on the side of the boat. The handle was depressed to detonate the submerged mine. Nothing happened. The sappers forgot to put the dynamo's earth plate in the water, leaving the electrical circuit incomplete. It was fixed. The detonator was pushed again. This time, there was an enormous explosion. But it wasn't the submerged mine that detonated. It was the second mine, the one sitting beside the men in the boat. The blast was devastating. Thousands of spectators watched as fragments of timber, debris, and crimson-tinged water were thrown into the air. 4 men were killed instantly. First Lieutenant Thomas Hammond, aged 38. Second Lieutenant Rupert Bedford, aged 36. Corporal John McKee, aged 25. And Bugler Charles Bennett, aged 23. A tragic accident and a tragic loss. The 10 others in the boat were injured, but survived. As the 20th century unfolded, Middlehead continued to evolve. Come early 1941, the country's defences weren't as strong after committing to Britain and sending divisions and resources to Europe and the Mediterranean. Japan wasn't much of a friend in those days, and as it swept south crushing Allied armies, we needed to up our defences. Concrete reinforced many of the older sandstone structures. Observation equipment improved. Searchlights swept the harbour after dark. Anti-aircraft gun batteries were installed on the cliffs and headlands. Telephone comms linked those batteries around Sydney's coastline into a coordinated defence network. An interlocking tungsten steel boom net spanned the harbour from George's Head to Green Point, almost 1.5 kilometres in length, with 2 openings to allow our ships and smaller boats to pass through. In May 1942, Japanese midget subs entered Sydney Harbour under the cover of darkness. Soldiers stationed here watched events unfold. Yet the tiny subs slipped past the heavy artillery that had been designed to engage much larger warships. The greatest guns protecting Sydney Harbour proved almost powerless against this new form of attack. The net did its job and caught one of the midgets, and it eventually detonated itself. 2 others slipped past the net. One of them played cat and mouse with our patrol boats for a few hours. The third midget fired 2 torpedoes. One of them ran up the seawall at Garden Island, failing to explode. The other hit the seawall, detonating beneath HMAS Cuttable, killing 21 people. This here is the observation tower and gun emplacement at Obelisk Bay, about a 10-minute walk through the bush from Middlehead Fort. Installed during the Second World War and home to a twin 6-pounder gun, where the barrels could be fired singly or together. During the Malayan Emergency and Vietnam War, Aussie officers were trained in the former engine room here. A simulated Viet Cong tiger cage was set up, complete with ankle-deep water, slime on walls and loudspeaker blaring shrieking voices in the East is Red communist revolutionary song. After World War II, the big guns and forts of the harbour were decommissioned. Only the tunnels, batteries and sandstone walls remain. Yet these fortifications still tell an extraordinary story. They reveal more than a century of changing military engineering. A place where architects, engineers and soldiers continually adapted to new technologies and new threats. Every tunnel, every magazine, every observation post and gun emplacement was built with purpose. Middlehead is more than an abandoned fort. It's a remarkable open-air museum, preserving one of the most complete collections of 19th and 20th century harbour fortifications in the country. And as you leave this fascinating place behind, it's worth remembering that although the guns never fired in anger at an invading fleet, they stood ready for more than 100 years. Watching, waiting, guarding the harbour beyond.